As I was preparing for this week, at first I was enthusiastic. This is a passage I like. It should be easy to preach about. But as I worked on it, I realized, oh no, this passage is telling me to do something I don't want to do. It convicted me a little, and I'm not sure I like it quite as much anymore. But it's too late. Gotta preach it now. Matthew 18 contains a passage that discusses conflict and how we are to resolve conflicts among us as Christians. It's about forgiveness and reconciliation and healing broken relationships. But before I get into any of that, I need to give a disclaimer. Whenever talking about forgiveness and restoring relationships, I want to make clear that I am not talking about abusive relationships. Abuse in any form is a different kettle of fish. Here in today's sermon, I'm talking about the type of conflicts that arise in normal, everyday relationships. Not scenarios where one person is actively, repeatedly harming you. If you want to discuss what forgiveness and healing might look like for someone who has experienced abuse, then let's talk one-on-one. I am happy to meet with you. I want to meet with you. In those scenarios, we take it case by case, looking at what healing and good spiritual health is going to look like for you. That being said, what about other conflicts? What do you do when someone, especially someone in church, hurts you? In one of his most practical moments ever, Jesus gives a 3-point process for conflict resolution. Step 1, if another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. Go to the person directly. Not to your spouse, not to your minister, not to anyone else. Go to the person who hurt you. Again, the situation is different for abuse and harassment, but for anything short of that, you need to meet face to face with the person that you are upset with. Does that mean you can't vent to your partner or minister or therapist? No, of course not. But if you want to actually fix the problem, you're going to need to be direct. This is my favorite rule because, well, it's helped me plenty in the past. With ministry, you're just bound to upset some people, and I've received my share of complaint letters. However, no one who has ever complained about me has done the first step of actually talking with me. And the Presbyterian polity follows Jesus' steps here in Matthew 18. You have to talk with the person that you have an issue with. I've even gone out of my way to say, hey, I'll help you draft a letter of complaint. We just have to meet first so that the letter is properly received. In my experience, this first step is what separates actual complaints from mere grumbles of discontent. Again, and last time, it's different with harassment and abuse. To find our process for that, please visit the National Church website and search safety policies. There are guidebooks and resources that can help if you've experienced in the church general harassment, racial harassment, or sexual abuse and harassment. The second step Jesus gives is, if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you. Those people are not intended to get engaged with a fight. You're not tag teaming to beat up a third person. They're simply there as witnesses. Having an intentional witness present, even if they say nothing at all, makes a big difference in changing the tone of an argument. It demonstrates that the offense was serious and that your desire for resolution is also serious. The focus and purpose here is conflict resolution and a restored relationship. That is why I think people would write letters of complaint about me without wanting to actually meet directly. When you outline the steps of meeting face to face, followed with meeting with a mediator or witness, it's clear that the goal here isn't punishment, it is healing. Jesus wants us to fix the relationship. And often people who are upset just don't want the relationship fixed. In church today, by the time someone makes a complaint, they've usually already left, sadly. That's doubly upsetting for me because it steals the opportunity for us to connect and correct an issue. Their complaint might have made us a better church and me a better minister. So I grieve not just the loss of the relationship, but the lost potential as well. Final step in Jesus' conflict resolution policy is if the member refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. It's not till the very end that you go public with the issue and you disclose it to the wider church community in the hopes, again, that the conflict can be resolved. Note how many opportunities Jesus is creating to fix this relationship. He wants us to be trying again and again. And then, if none of that works, the second part to that step is if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Treat them like a Gentile or tax collector. Well, how did Jesus treat Gentiles and tax collectors? When he was approached at the well by a Gentile woman, what did he do? When he saw a little tax collector up in a tree, what did he do? Oh goodness, even if you can't resolve the problem, the final step is still love. Keep loving, keep praying, keep hoping that one day the relationship can be fixed. Your love and concern for that other person never stops. Why? Because your relationships have heavenly consequences. As Jesus said earlier, he repeats here, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. This binding and loosening isn't just about laws, it's about people. We are to be concerned about the spiritual well-being of my neighbor. For whatever reason, the God of the cosmos brought this person, of all people, into your life. That person, that relationship, is not disposable. Every connection has meaning and value. We need to honor those. We need to honor each other. Respect the members of our churches and our communities as precious to God. Our relationship with them is like a gemstone given to us to be stewards and to care for. You have to care about that other person enough that you would go through all of those steps to fix any problem between you. And this is where I start to feel convicted. I like Jesus' rules here as long as it's about complaints that other people have against me. If you have an issue with me, then I really hope that you bring it up to me. It's very unlikely that the harm was intentional. And so it's a gift to be given the opportunity to do better. And I appreciate that. However, when I have problems with other people, when I've been hurt, do I offer that same gift back? Would I complain? I don't think so. Most times that I've been hurt, I just walk away. I ignore it. I don't want to escalate the situation. I don't want to draw attention to it or make a fuss about it. Sure, I was hurt, but I don't want to say anything. I'll be fine. If the problem gets really bad, I'll step away rather than say anything. Do you do that? I'm sure I'm not the only one. In fact, it's probably what most Canadians do. We like to avoid conflict. If you bump into me, I'll say sorry for it, but we both know who really was at fault. I'll just be careful to avoid you in the future. But for Jesus, There is no avoiding people in the future. All of our relationships are eternal, heavenly relationships that matter. If I ignore that our relationship is being harmed and I don't name it, then I am in turn harming the relationship myself. I will keep my distance from you, or I get resentful of you, or I cut you out of my life altogether. Those actions, they cause harm too. It is a gift you give to the other person to be able to name kindly and swiftly when you have been sinned against. If I say to someone that they hurt me, if I then bring in a witness or a mediator, if I follow the steps of a complaint, I am saying that this relationship with you matters. You matter, and I want things to be resolved between us. It's a kindness to make that complaint. It's a show of love. In the past, I thought I was being kind when I walked away. I didn't cause a scene, I didn't fight, I just moved on. But that's not kindness, is it? I think love demands more of me. Am I ready to do that? Well, I don't know. I will have to think and pray on it. Making a complaint is by far the harder thing to do. This gives me a new respect for the complainers in life, especially if they're being kind about it and not just Karens on a power trip. Maybe this could reframe for you the complainers in your life. It's a sign that they still value a connection with you. Maybe this gives you the encouragement to be making some complaints yourself. Not everything is perfect, even in the most perfect of churches like ours. And your complaint is a statement that you love us enough. You care about this church enough to help us get better. We need that. As hard as it is to receive criticism, we're not going to evolve without it. And if we stick together, if we confront conflict face to face, if we get through those difficult moments and reach an agreement, well then, Jesus says, the world's your oyster. You could do anything. He says, again, truly I tell you, if two of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. If the two of you can agree on a way forward, then all the doors open. Anything could happen. Because two or three of us reaching a consensus, coming to an agreement after an argument, when we find harmony, then we know that Christ is with us. These conflict resolution steps are important. It's not just about hearing a complaint. It is about bringing together a church in harmony, a church that could do anything. A church that can move through arguments and disagreements, a community that faces conflict and found ways through it. Oh, they are unstoppable. What immense possibilities are in front of you? Ask for it. God is there. If we believe in our church, if we believe in our denomination, if we believe in Christ, we have a responsibility to bring forward our complaints. If we've been sinned against, hurt by a member of the church, then it is for the sake of the church, for the sake of Christ, that we need to voice it. You're not being rude. You're not being a problem. You, through Christ, are bringing about healing. Oh, what a challenge that is for me. I feel convicted. But I will rethink my response the next time something bad happens. Maybe I'll be bold enough, loving enough to make a complaint. I hope you will be too. Amen.